But do you think that the left is continuing to become divided over different issues? Like at one point, there was a divide over force the vote for Medicare for all. Then it was the divide over the jab mandates and the pandemic. And now there seems to be a divide as well over the release of these Twitter files. And Matt Taibbi, he's been on this show. We've talked extensively about this. He's had numerous interviews. But there seems to be a segment of the left that is now smearing Matt Taibbi, calling him right wing because of the information that was reported. And there's also a segment of the left that is in some way, shape, or form defending the FBI and the CIA for some crazy reason. Like, that's not what the left was supposed to be about.
Yeah.
It just seems like we're becoming more and more divided. And I don't know what's causing this. But from my perspective, the left was never supposed to be in support of those types of government agencies. I mean, look at who those agencies killed. It came out recently that Malcolm X's family has filed a lawsuit against the FBI. So it was really weird. It just seems like it's dangerous in a sense, because now it gives people the impression that the right is against the FBI. Marjorie Taylor Greene is saying abolish the FBI, right? So I feel like this is dangerous in a sense. But why do you feel like this is happening?
Well, I think it was COVID. I think COVID broke people's brains. And what I argued in that year-old 8,000-word piece up at the Gray Zone is that it was Trump derangement syndrome. That it was like this, that basically the system, the mainstream of the Republican Party, the mainstream of the Democratic Party, the vast majority of the media didn't like Trump and don't like Trump. And I wrote another piece for the Gray Zone recently, getting at what I think the heart of the matter is. And it's like, a lot of people don't like him because he's crass. My mother, who I love very dearly, but I mean, she, how to put this, but I mean, she made comments earlier on which like she wouldn't have minded if she'd seen him assassinated. And his basic sin in her eyes was that he was basically disgusting and crass and a pig, But so that's just kind of humorous. That's where, but it's an indication where a lot of people are out there like, this guy's so disgusting, right? But I think that the real thing at the heart of it was that this guy was totally out of control in terms of U.S. empire. If you look at his foreign policy, he vandalized the U.S. empire. Because you think at first, like, how could the system, broadly defined, how could the ruling class, how could the rich and the upper echelons of the professional managerial class who serve the interests of the rich and get paid well for doing it, why would they have a beef with this guy? He gave them massive tax cuts. He gave industry, tons of deregulation. What's the problem? Well, look at his foreign policy. The dude was out of control. He was not some sort of progressive anti-imperialist. He had this crass transactional sensibility, but it was destructive. He ordered a third of the troops in Germany removed. Germany is this, there's 40 military bases that house American forces in Germany. This is a center for a whole region-wide thing. AFRICOM is actually headquartered in Germany. 104 countries are, potential U.S. military operations in 104 countries depend on this fulcrum in Germany. Trump wanted a third of those troops removed. His national security staff did their best to undermine that and redeploy the troops and keep him off balance. He trashed the Trans-Pacific Partnership. He withdrew a quarter of the troops from South Korea. He drew down like a third of the troops from Iraq. He negotiated the end to the war in Afghanistan. Okay, the withdrawal took place under Biden, but that was all predicated. It would have been much bloodier and much more insane had there not been this agreement that had been hammered out by the Trump's administration negotiators. He withdrew basically all the forces from Somalia. He withdrew lots of forces from Syria and then redeployed them to an area where there's oil. There's not that much oil in Syria. Yeah, they export none. They produce like 300,000 barrels a day. And it's all for internal consumption. He wanted to close all the embassies in Africa because he's a racist, not because he's an anti-imperialist. The point is, the guy was reckless. 6 months into his administration, the Joint Chiefs of Staff had a meeting with him. They invited him to the Pentagon. He came to a famous meeting room called the Tank, and they had this big presentation for him, trying to explain how the American empire, the system of informal empire established at the end of World War II, how it works, the treaties, the alliances with different governments, the training programs, the types of weaponry involved, the types of surveillance, he's explaining all this stuff, and it's all over his head. And he says to them, he says, "You guys are dopes and babies and losers who don't know how to win wars anymore." He said, we're getting ripped off. In the Middle East, we've spent $7 trillion. Where's the fucking oil? That's a direct quote, right? And can you imagine the Joint Chiefs of Staff, like, wow, like this guy doesn't get it. He thinks this is about, like, he thinks the American empire is a poorly run security business that's like not making enough profits. And he's demanding from South Korea, I want cost plus 50%. The cost of the American troops housed there plus 50%. And by halfway through his administration, that became his thing. He wants anyone, wherever there are American troops, you got to pay the entire cost of those deployments plus give us 50%, right? So from the point of view of people who think that the American informal empire is good and vital and essential for the reproduction of fill in the blank, freedom, democracy, capitalism, you'd see this guy, you think this guy's really, really dangerous. And so I think that's ultimately sort of what's at the root of Trump derangement syndrome. But Trump derangement syndrome infected the left because I think the left doesn't really have any autonomy from the Democratic Party, and it doesn't really have any autonomy from the mainstream media. When push comes to shove, as it did during the lockdowns, the left did a 180, and they turned their back on everything that the left has stood for. I mean, free speech and censorship, right? I mean, who made that a possibility, right? Listeners might not know this, right? But the First Amendment isn't nationalized until I think it's like 1932. For a long time, the First Amendment was seen as applying only on federal territory, and the states could make their own laws around speech. The way that the First Amendment was nationalized was through a series of political struggles, often bloody, that then involved court cases. And almost all of these were done by leftists, by anarchists, communists, socialists, trade unionists, right? So the American left is what delivered us free speech. And now the left has turned its back on free speech. I mean, it's astounding. It is astounding and deeply troubling for me personally. I'm shocked by this. The left pioneered the whole critique of agency capture, right? How corporate influence affects science and regulation. It's just all of that went out the window. People who could get into tremendous detail about how the very same pharmaceutical companies, with their, maybe not pharmaceutical companies, but very, very same type of companies that push pesticides and GMO seeds, how exactly they have captured the regulatory agencies and that the revolving door, all that, then just are completely gullible when it comes to these, we now know, relatively ineffective at stopping transmission, somewhat effective in terms of suppressing symptoms, definitely had some positive effects in terms of preventing people from dying of symptoms if they had comorbidities and were older, but they're not like vaccines in the old-fashioned sense of like you get one shot, you don't get sick, and you don't transmit it, right? People who could go on for days about agency capture in other realms, then don't want to entertain, can't see how the same thing is happening around pharmaceuticals and the COVID jabs, right? So it's, I think it's, I don't know why it's happened, but what I have seen is that what has been revealed, this was the ultimate stress test for the US left, and there was nothing there. An authoritarian state, corporate profiteering, an assault on civil liberties, which our political ancestors literally fought and died for to get for us. And all of that in an instant is abandoned. It's shocking.
Yeah, it really is shocking. I think one of the things that could have happened, we've often said, at least on this show, we've said that Bernie Sanders may have led the left off a cliff because it was like 2 election cycles in a row. Bernie Sanders tells you, first time, vote for Hillary Clinton. Second time, go ahead and vote for Joe Biden. Joe Biden is also dangerous, right? I feel like Trump is overt, Joe Biden is covert. I feel like Joe Biden, behind the scenes, his foreign policy is also pretty, horrendous. Like he was just in Canada meeting with Trudeau, asking him to intervene in Haiti. Like I feel like the U.S. government has their hands
And
all over the globe.
I mean, the proxy war in Ukraine, right? I mean, this is highly dangerous. I mean, the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, the largest atomic power plant in Europe, is right on the front lines. That alone should be reason for this war to be stopped, no matter what, right? When Chernobyl melted down, it was contained by a gigantic, functional, authoritarian communist state that had the power and the capacity, the administrative power, the political legitimacy, the means to order 260 or 70,000 liquidators to fly flights over that burning atomic power plant and cover it up with cement and then build this esophagus over it. If the Zaporizhia plant goes, and let's be clear, it's lost power and gone to diesel backup power generators. I believe it's 6 times this year during the conflict, right? If it loses power and starts to overheat and melt down, I don't see any way there could be a response, anything like the one that put out Chernobyl, basically, right? So, I mean, this is an extremely, extremely dangerous situation. I'm not actually that worried about atomic exchanges between the U.S. and Russia, but I think that the Zaporizhia plant is the real problem in Ukraine. And yeah, let's be clear. I mean, Biden is really into this war. And I think Trump is right that this war we would not have this proxy war had Trump been president. I mean, Trump didn't start a new war. Okay, he bombed Syria twice. He drone striked the head of the Revolutionary Guard in Iran. He did a couple of things, but I mean, he did not start any new wars, and that's pretty unusual for an American president. So,
do you believe that? Do you believe that that's the reason, or more so, that this indictment is more politically motivated because they don't want Donald Trump to win again, and there's a possibility that he could win again?
Certainly, yes. I think. I don't know, but one gets the impression that Alvin Bragg's ego plays a big role in this. And I mean, and then there's probably just an assumption that, like, okay, this is going to hurt him. This is not good publicity to have this guy be arrested, whatever, but they may be wrong. They've been wrong about a lot of stuff. So I think, they don't want him to be reelected. And that's what this is about. Look at all the other people who could be arrested, right? I mean, no one from the Bush administration has been arrested for creating a torture program, for selling us a bill of goods, lying about the weapons of mass destruction, and causing this totally devastating war that is remade in horrible ways an entire region. So, yeah, I think it's political for sure. Now, I'm not saying, just to be clear, that I think Donald Trump is a good guy, that Donald Trump is innocent of everything they're accusing him of. No, but yeah, certainly I think it's political.